challenges with your computer. Oh, thank you. Who did that? Mick, did you do that? No, I don't think so. I forgot it. Yeah, just look up Longmont Senior Center SCTC. So I'm into technology. So in terms of genealogy, I've been doing genealogy for 40 odd years, but I really know more about DNA and AI. So we're going to talk about AI today. So this happens all the time. So I always like to have a little section that says, hey, this presentation for you if you want to know more about how AI works, you want to know how AI can help your genealogy research, which is, duh, of course we do. Or you want to know more about how AI affects the world in general, or you just like new stuff. So I figure that covers about everybody, right? Certainly everybody here. So here's what we're going to talk about. I always try to break these presentations into kind of two big sections. The first part is what I call the not particularly useful but mildly entertaining section, right? The point of that is you don't have to remember any of this. It's kind of background. It's how stuff works, not so much how you use it, but how stuff works. So the second part is the informative and hopefully useful section. And that's where we're going to talk about how you can use AI to help your research. So first of all, part one, what is AI and how does it work? A little bit about this robot. I had this robot created by typing these words into an AI called Night Cafe Studio. I said, build me a robot pointing with his finger to the right with no background. Animate this robot pointing its finger to the right. So this is an original. There is no other one like this. It created this for me because you.
Yeah, but now can't any other AI bot grab that and use it?
Only if it's exposed. I mean, if it were exposed on the internet, which it is not. So they could, but nope. We're going to talk all kinds about that. And nope, this was free. Pardon? Oh my gosh, you're going to love this. All right, so we're going to talk about that. Yeah. So first of all, what is AI? And of course, there's no easier way to answer that question than to ask AI, hey, what is AI? And there's an app called ChatGPT, which we're going to talk about a lot. And this is what it came up with. Simulation of human intelligence and machines programmed to think and learn like humans. Visual perception, speech recognition, decision-making, and language translation is kind of some of the keys we're going to hit on. This is a good description of what AI is. 4.0. Yeah. See that little O there? Yeah, it's 4.0. It's not a 0, it's an O. And there's a reason they called it 4.0, which I don't know. I don't remember. I saw it, but I don't remember it. So we're going to talk specifically about recognizing, understanding language and images. And we're going to relate that to how it works with genealogy. AI has been around for a long time in terms of decades. But this whole understanding and recognizing language is really new. And it's really new because of the advances in semiconductor technology. In other words, the chips and stuff that are in your phone and the computer science behind it. We're going to talk a little bit about that. So it works like a huge library. And so this is not my analogy, but these are my graphics. I created these graphics. So you imagine that you walk into a library that's got the history of the world in it, right? And it's filled with all kinds of anything you could think of. And there's a librarian there. And that librarian just happens to know where everything is in that library, which is crazy. So you can ask this, you can chat with this librarian. You can say, hey, I want to know what Scotland was like in 1850 around Aberdeen. And she knows all that, and she will tell you what it was like. what the economy was, what the people were like. She knows all that because it's in a book there somewhere.
But doesn't, one of my questions is, footnote.
So,
Piece of information isn't valuable
So-
to me if I don't know where.
so the question is footnotes. The information not valuable to you unless you know where it came from. We're going to talk more about that here in a bit. Okay. And all this is based on a thing called neural networks. This is a neural network inside here. Your brain is a neural network. It happens to be made of neurons that are biological, but computers have now been able to mimic the human brain and the neurons in the brain in order to come up with this whole artificial intelligence. The semiconductor technology that's come along is essentially a thing they call an NPU, which is a neural processing unit. And the computer science is all this natural language learning that's available. And you put those two together and it does crazy stuff. And we're going to look at crazy stuff. So this image here, you can see I said, and this is unique, give me an image of a human head with a semiconductor chip inside and neural networks inside. I asked Microsoft Copilot Designer for that, and this is what it created. So does anybody here ever work with computers, program, or anything like that? Awesome. We got some computer folks here. You remember this, right? This is, do you? That's great. I have one somewhere. I think I got this off the internet. This is called a flowchart template. And what you used to have to do when you were programming is someone would come to you and say, I want a program that does this, this, and this. And you would sit down with your little flowchart template and you would write boxes for processes and diamonds for decisions, that you can see here. And you would build this diagram of what your program's going to do. And then you would sit down and code the program from that diagram. And you can see here, I've built a flowchart to answer the question, should I go skiing? And the input to this is a bunch of decisions that say, yeah, is the weather bad? Yeah, don't go. Do you have enough money for a lift ticket? No, don't go. And you would make these decisions step by step, and it came up with a yes, no answer. So the new way of doing this with AI is you feed all of these variables into the neural network that's the basis of AI, and then you train it. And this is the key to AI, is the training. All of these AI bots that you see, they've all been trained in one way or the other. And this training involves giving them data, looking at what their results are, and saying, no, this isn't quite right. Yes, this is good. And doing that a couple of 100 million times. And you end up with something that can decide whether you should go skiing. Now,
To say yes or no,
well,
or maybe.
snow is one of the inputs to this. So you would have to give it that data. And theoretically, this is a theoretical, it would go out to the internet, it would look at the weather forecast, right? And that's how it would know whether it's going to snow or not. Yeah. So the AI response is using natural language is, hey, Bobski, it snowed 11.5 inches the last 24 hours at your favorite resort. I know how much you like fresh snow, so you should definitely go. You don't have enough money in your checking account, but you do have a credit card. The traffic's going to be bad, but get an early start. You've got vacation days, your calendar's light. About friends, on powder days, there are no friends. Basically, that's a saying that we have, that on powder days, I'm taking off, you're on your own. And so it would actually say all this. Now, I say this is hypothetical because ChatGPT, if that were the one responding, doesn't have access to my bank account yet. Thank goodness. Yeah, thank goodness. But this is what it would look like. It's called LLM, Large Language Model. So that's kind of how the background of how it works. It's based on neural networks. It has to be trained, and there's zillions of ways of training these things.
But we don't train it.
Well, yes, you might. For example, ChatGPT uses your response, it's got a thumb up or a thumb down, you can say, yeah, this was a good answer. It goes back into the training. So we as users, no, it doesn't know you personally. But given the question, and it looked, oh, sorry, Zoom, what was the question? Does it know you, right? And the answer is no, it doesn't know you. It knows the question and it knows the answer, and whether you said it was a good answer or a bad answer.
That's my response to the question.
Yes.
Right.
Did it fit the bill, right? Yeah, we're going to talk more about that here. So there's a thing called chatbots, and ChatGPT is one of those chatbots, and there's a lot of them. They are essentially apps. You can put ChatGPT on your phone as an app. They use natural language processing and machine learning, which is the training, to understand and respond to not only text, but voice and images. In genealogy, and this is where we're going to talk a lot more about this, it's good for editing text, for transcribing documents, because AI is really good at figuring out what a document looks like. I know when I was programming in the 80s, one of the problems that was unsolvable for programmers was deciphering an image. And that's changed now. It's completely changed.
Are some of these that work at
The question is, how good are some of these? We're going to talk about that. Yep. So ChatGPT is probably the premier AI chatbot. It's been around the longest. ChatGPT 4.0 is the latest, and it was trained on a diverse data set. Now, ChatGPT 3, which is its predecessor, would tell you what those data sets were. And it was things like the dialogue of 1,000 different movies were just fed to it. And it used those dialogues as examples of how to respond to people when they talk to you. ChatGPT 4.0, they don't disclose how the training is, but it's many, many terabytes of data. It also insists it's not a search engine. So Google is the best example of a search engine, or Bing, for example, will go, DuckDuckGo will go find things on the internet for you. ChatGPT says, I don't do that. It takes your question and it analyzes it with what it knows when it was trained, which was in April of 2023. But it still will go out to the internet and get stuff. And you sort of have to play with that. We'll talk about that. So for example, I said, in 35 words, describe Federasso, Scotland, which is where my 4th grade grandfather's from. And it created this. And I think it's like 33 words or 36 words. And so part of its training was what Scotland looked like in the 1860s. And it created that. And then I said, because I'm chatting with it, the cool thing about a chatbot is you don't have to start over again because it remembers the conversation. So I just said, create an image of that. And it created that image right there. So that's 1860 something Scotland.
But that's not 1860 Scotland. That's what that chatbot thinks 1860
Well,
Scotland.
I didn't do this, but so the question was, it's not 1860 Scotland, it's what the chatbot thought 1860 Scotland looked like. I didn't do this, but you can in fact go say, tell me why you made a castle there. Right, yes. The comment was, in response to this question, it creates what it thinks, yes. And if you play with this long enough, you'll see it's mind-boggling accurate. So here's another example. I said, using this photo as a guide, the one on the left here, which is me and my cousins and my sister, please reproduce it as set in 1850 Scotland. And it created this image here that you can see on the right. And it went on to explain in great detail why those clothes are the way they are. The different fabrics, the different patterns, the hairstyles. I mean, it wrote whole story about why that image looks like it does. Yes, question. The question is, did they take the facial features? That's actually what I was shooting for, and I don't think it did. Well, you'll notice there's 6 people here, and only 5 over there, but there's also this doll, you know. So I don't think it looks like, do these people look like those people? Does this look like me? I don't think so. But I could iterate towards it. I could say, literally, make those characters look like the people in the image, and it would iterate. Right. The comment was Photoshop has facial recognition. Yeah. Oh, we're going to talk about that as well. Oh, so in your Photoshop said your nephew looks like your husband, right? Yeah. Yeah, we're going to talk more about photo recognition here in a second. This is a deed from my 3rd great grandfather that he was given for his, I believe it was for his participation in the War of 1812 outside of Beatrice, Nebraska. And you can see here, this is an image, right? This is a JPEG image. And here it has the description of the land, the southeast quarter of section 3 in township 6 north, 6 north of range 1 west, blah, blah, blah. And ChatGPT looked at that handwriting and transcribed it and gave me that answer. So it was able to analyze this whole thing, including my 4th great grandfather, 3rd great grandfather's name, and give me that summary. So these are the kinds of things that these chatbots can do, and it's mind-boggling. I have a lot of these examples, by the way. So this is an obit from Mount Morris, New York. And you can see it's a clipping from newspapers.com or whatever. And it's got the obit written up. And I just gave it to ChatGPT and I said, create a Microsoft Word table of relatives to the deceased, their name and relationship. So all of these people are mentioned in that obit, and this is their relationship. Now, yes, this was with ChatGPT, which is, I don't know about you, but if I sit and stare at something like this obit and try to figure out who's related to what, and read through all this stuff, it confuses me to no end. And boom, in 30 seconds, it created this table for me. I've got another obit. This is my great grand aunt. And I said a similar thing. Give me a table of relatives and include where they're from. And it sorted through the text and produced this table, which is pretty cool. Yes. You know what? I was going to put it in here and I couldn't find it at the time. So Al asked if I have his grandfather's record. I do have another one though that's similar to that. Yeah. So let's do a couple of just live demos here. So this is ChatGPT. You may not be able to see that, but I simply go to chatgpt.com and it brings up this dialogue. Now, I pay for a subscription for ChatGPT, and it gives me 2 things. One is I can use it all day long, and the other one is I can feed it images almost of any size or length. If you use the free version, you're at the bottom of their priority list, and they can actually come back and say, I can't do that right now. And the reason this AI stuff takes an incredible amount of computing power. It takes, they're building huge data centers to support this. So, and if they just do it with you for free, you're not going to get a really good, you're not going to get good service. Let's put it that way. It will still work. It just not work as well. So I pay for it. It's $20 a month. So I've got a couple of examples. tell me about the Longmont Genealogical Society. And we'll see what it comes up with here. Oh, that font is really small. No, the best you can do. Well, there we go. I made it bigger, but then of course oh shoot. Then of course we don't get as much stuff in here. So here you can see this is the response it gave me. The LGS is a local local organization, supportive community, and then it says, is that okay? And what we're talking about here, you can say, yeah, that's a good response, and it will remember that. So we helped train it when we did that. Say, make that 20 words. And there it is. It condensed as much as it can in 20 words, and it gives you the answer. This is one of my favorites. You can have it write short stories. You can have it write articles for the quarterly newsletter. In this particular case, I'm going to say write a short poem in iambic pentameter about a cheerful audience listening to a lecture on genealogy meets AI, right? So it's writing a poem. In quiet halls, the lights begin to dim. The audience awaits with eager cheer. They've gathered here for knowledge, not on a whim. As AI meets the path is clear, blah, blah, blah. The question come, a buzz fills up the room, excited minds. So obviously it's in iambic pentameter. It wrote about an audience listening to a presentation on AI. One of the things I always like to do is one of the attendees, Al, is grumpy. Let's see what it does. The speaker weaves the path through but Al sits grumpy, arms crossed, mood quite grim. Unsure if Al's path is all that clear. Yes, as the talk goes on, a spark takes hold. Questions for him. Could this, even Al leans in, his frown less tight. So you can see the capability of this. It's crazy what it can do. And this is based on, obviously, AI and large language models, the whole conversational tone. So let's go back to, well, let's see, we got any more? Find information. So one of the questions we get a lot is, can it help me find things? And I'm going to say find information on Johann Michael Seitz immigration. And you see that it can't find anything that I couldn't find on my own. That's an important part of this. It can't go to Ancestry. It can't go to MyHeritage because ostensibly whoever's using this doesn't have a subscription to Ancestry or MyHeritage. But what it does do is it gives you hints on where you might find the information you're looking for. So it says, the German to America series, blah, 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 family search. Now you can see here, it's giving me a footnote. It's telling me where it's getting this information. So it's not just making it up, although it will make stuff up. You have to be careful of that. Yeah, it will make stuff up. Yes.
Did you look at any of the other AI?
Sure. The comment was, I've chosen to use ChatGPT. Have I looked at the other AI? Yeah, we're going to talk about some of the others. We're not going to use them as examples. ChatGPT, to me, well, first of all, I pay for it, and I don't pay for Copilot or Gemini or any of those others.
Make a rational decision that ChatGPT.
Yes. The question was, did I make a rational decision that ChatGPT was better? And for this kind of thing, I think ChatGPT is better. It has a bigger training database than any of the others. Now, and we may be going to talk about that right here. There are things called search chatbots, which ChatGPT can't do. Yeah, there we go, search engine chatbots. So a search engine, as you probably know, searches the internet based on your query, something that you give it. Google is the premier example of that. You go to Google and you say, tell me about Scotland in 1860. And it gives you a list of websites that you can go to. Well, these guys aggregate those websites, the information from those websites, and produce a large language model, an interactive version of whatever it is you're looking for.
Can I tell it to look on my computer as well as on?
So the question was, can I tell it to look on my computer as well as the internet? No, it's based on, these search engines are based on going out to the internet. Yes.
So it can't go through all those reams of things like they did on my
A
computer.
Mac can. I'll show you that.
He also sells computers.
I also sell Macs, yeah. The key here is this chat experience. So if I go to Gemini, for example, Gemini is Google's chatbot search engine. And I ask it to find, what's Scotland like in 1850. It will provide me with a dialogue of a description of that and say, is that what you want? And you can say, well, I was more thinking of rural Scotland or urban Scotland. And it will change its response. And this is all a chat because it remembers what you said before. That's different than, going to Google and saying, give me a list, or, tell me about Scotland in 1850. It gives you all these websites. And then you have to say, no, I mean, give me a list of, or go to Scotland in 1850, rural Scotland. And then it will give you another list of websites. So this chat thing really makes it helpful for honing in on what you're trying to find. It also, like Copilot and Gemini, will help you create things like emails, for example. Copilot for Microsoft Word, and if you don't have it installed, it's easy to turn on, will let you do this in like Microsoft Word. You can create something in Microsoft Word. You write a lot of stories, right? You can create it in Microsoft Word, highlight it, and say, phrase this better, or make the tone more friendly, and it'll rewrite it for you. So, yeah, wow. How do you think I write all this quarterly newsletter stuff? So these are some chatbots and search chatbots. Gemini and Copilot are from Google and Microsoft. And then Meta is obviously the Facebook guys. These tend to rely on the other chatbots, but they have different prompts to steer them in a particular direction. I know Claude, for example, is specifically for writing. I haven't used these other guys, or if I have, I just played with them. But you can. I think this is in your handout if you had one. Well, the good news is when you get the electronic copy, you can just click on this as opposed to trying to type in. All right, so all that makes sense? It's insane technology. So let's look at AI and images, which is one of the big new things about AI. It turns out that neural networks, and combined with some math, if I put here, are really good at manipulating images. So here, if you don't know, I've got 4 Aussies, and I'm a hot Aussie fan. So I said, give me a square image showing a they're called CNN, convolutional neural networks, hovering over an image of an Australian shepherd and analyzing it. So this is the AI analyzing this image of an Australian shepherd. So it's good at understanding photos, handwriting, documents of any kind, and so on. So one of the things is image recognition. Does anybody know about Google Lens? Has anybody used it? TA. Okay. So the comment was, I used it at the zoo because I didn't know what a plant was. Yeah. So we're going to look at this. So the way it works is it takes an image, it breaks it all up into pixels, which are the little tiny dots, feeds it into the neural network, and then it comes up with some kind of response. In this particular case, the question was, what is this? Well, it's a dog. This takes millions and millions of cycles of training, and you can see all these images of Indy. Indy's one of my toy Aussies. Millions and millions of images, not just of Indy, but of dogs in general, and cats and other things, because it can come up and say, oh, this cat is a dog, and you say, no, it's not, and it goes back and iterates again through the training. So there's a thing called Google Lens, which is a reverse image search. And well, I probably don't need to do it right now, but it's really easy to use. And if you're into Google, just go to google.com, and in the search bar over on the right is a little picture of a camera. And all you do is click on that camera, and you can search by image. In this case, I fed a picture of Indy, and I got all these responses. Look at this, you know, all these little Aussies. But one thing was interesting, and that was it also found a couple of Chihuahuas. And I was like, you know, that's not right. Until I got Indy's DNA. And guess what? She's 45% Chihuahua. Yeah. Isn't that crazy? So AIs can generate images generally based on text, but today more and more you can do it through voice. You can do it through taking a photograph of something. But in this particular case, because my heritage is, although, has anybody seen the new Ancestry DNA results that came out last week, in the last week?
Yeah.
Woof! Uh-huh. Yeah, because they're getting really refined on this. So I was like 50% from Scotland. I was. And now I'm like 12% from Scotland and someplace near it. And I'm like, oh, man. But anyway, so my father's father was from Scotland, and my mother's father's father was Germany. So I said, well, show me a man with lederhosen and a kilt, right? That makes sense. Half and half. And this is what it came up with. And I mean, all of this, the mountains, probably the Alps, right? The beer got me down solid there, right? So the bagpipes, it added all this, and it added all this based on this training. It said, well, you know, if you're from Scotland, you probably know about bagpipes, and so it threw it in. The way these work, it's called a generative adversarial model. Without getting too far in the weeds, one of the reasons this takes so much time is because it starts out with a blank slate, and it feeds it to another AI, and it says, is this a dog? And the other AI looks at this blank slate and says, no, it's not a dog. It needs to look more like this. And it spins it back. And this one says, oh, okay, I'll adjust it like this. It spins it back. And it does this a bazillion zillion times to refine itself into an image. So that's how they get generated. And that's why they take so much computing power. This is one where I said create an image of a chatbot interacting with a genealogist. And you can see it created this chatbot. I don't know how this chatbot walks, though. You know, it's all 1 foot. Yeah, okay, wheels. Yeah, there you go. Okay. And we can play with some of this when we're done here, and then we can look at some of, you know, just test it out. My father was in the 102nd Infantry Division. He landed at Cherbourg, which is D-Day +3, and then he marched all the way through Europe. So I said, create a timeline of image. Now, in this particular case, ChatGPT went out to the internet, and it found a book that detailed the 102nd Infantry Divisions. It's like a 300-page book. And so it perused that book and came up with this graphic.
But it doesn't tell you that it's the book?
Yes, it did. It referenced it. Yeah. I found this information. I think is what it said, something like that.
It went to the easiest.
Sorry, the question was, did it tell you it was using the book? Yes, it was. It told me it's using the book.
that information would be available in other locations.
So the comment was, well, it did an internet search. So the question was, how did it find that? It did an internet, it basically did a Google search, right? And found, if you Google search 102nd Infantry, that book pops up straight away. And that's how ChatGPT found it. Now, there's some interesting stuff here, because some of this text doesn't make any sense. And I attribute that to the fact that this iterative process, they can only let it go on so long. If you had unlimited compute power, or were willing to pay them an unlimited amount, this would be refined to make that text better. So this is interesting. This is my 4th grade grandmother in Hawkins County, Tennessee, I think. And this is her will, right? This is the page of her will. Well, just like the dog, breaks it up in pixels. In this case, the training is understanding cursive, understanding written text. Pardon?
English cursive.
Any language.
We're going to talk about that. Any language cursive, right? And actually, well, we can get into how it does that. And boom, I, Melinda Kenner of Hawkins County, state of Tennessee, blah, 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 from that. So I've got a close-up of that. So this is the text that it came up with, and this is the handwriting it was looking at. Just like that. I mean, how many times have you sat down with a handwritten script document for hours trying to go through it and figure it out? Just like that. What's that? The comment was, I would shove it away and not look at it for another 2 or 3 years. I am with you on that, square. I mean, it's crazy. So this is interesting. So I've got to put Al's grandfather's birth information in here, because his grandfather's from Italy. This happens to be an Italian birth certificate. And I just did a Google search and I said, hey, show me an Italian birth certificate. And it came up with this. This is all script in Italian. And I said, transcribe and translate it. So not only did it transcribe it into text, Italian text, but then it took that Italian text and translated it into English. So, which is crazy. So if you look at this and compare it with that, it's square on. I mean, it's, you know, you've got municipality of the city of Isernia. That's that, right? So the point is that it can understand, I don't know how many different languages it can understand. It's whatever it was trained on. I do know it'll do Chinese, because I used to have a slide in here where I had Chinese, whatever it is, calligraphy or whatever, and boom, it would translate it straight away. So these are some image generators. Some of these are crazy. This one in particular, how much time do we have? What time do we get done? Oh, we got plenty of time. Let me let's click on this one, for example. So this is audio-driven talking faces generated in real time. And what they do is they take a single image, a single photograph, and add some text to it.
Have you ever had, maybe you're in that place you wanted to
This is all AI generated. That's crazy.
Was it told to do a British accent?
I assume it was. I don't know whether it was told to do a British accent. This is one of those links. It's called Vasa 1. So it was this link right here. Here, this one's kind of crazy. This is creating video from text. So you can see here, this text says, well, let's find some shorter text. I don't know. Here, you can see her walking along. A stylish woman walks down a Tokyo street filled with warm glowing neon and animated city signage. She wears a black leather jacket, a long red dress, and black boots, and carries a black purse. She wears sunglasses and red lipstick. So it created this based on that text. There's a zillion of these. Give me historical footage of California during the gold rush. So it created this entire video based on that. The camera follows behind a white vintage SUV with a black roof as it speeds up a steep dirt road by pine trees on a steep mountain slope. So it created that as well. With a black roof rack. Sorry, it's a black roof. Yeah, I didn't read the whole thing. So the comment was, anyway, these are in the handout, so you get a chance, go fiddle with them. And okay, let's get down to genealogy, right? We talked about AI a bunch. Actually, the reason that I did that is that these tools are changing all the time. I would be updating this presentation out in the parking lot before I came in here if I wanted to get the latest and greatest stuff. So I picked some examples. I figured it was more important to show you how you can access these things and let you play with them. But some of these are really cool tools. So first of all the major genealogy websites, Ancestry, MyHeritage, all of those guys have jumped on the AI bandwagon. I think I talk about it a little bit later on. Some of it is hype, in all honesty. Oh, we got AI, you know, blah, blah, blah. And they do. And you can have it generate what Scotland was like in 1850 from Ancestry. But, you know, that doesn't help me find my 7th great grandfather. But anyway, some of these AI features have been around for a while. And if you remember when the 1940 census came out, what was that, like April of last year, maybe? Yeah, when the 1930 census came out, in order to index it, they feed this to you know, an army of a couple thousand people, volunteers. Some of you may have volunteered, right? And it took 9 months for the 1930 census to be indexed. And that was because humans had to look at this and they had to figure it out. The 1940 census came out, Ancestry said, give me that. And in 9 days, they had the entire census digitized and searchable because it was all fed to AI. It's just insane. The 1940 census. I am right about that, right? Was that 50 census? Okay, so it was 40 and 50, yeah. Gee, am I that old? Ah,
Yes, you are.
holy cow. Okay, thank you, Al. Yeah, I'm not even around in the 40 census. I'm not in the 50 census either. So remember the things that AI is good at, which is image manipulation, generating, editing copy, and searching the internet, that sort of thing. So we're going to look at family search, Ancestry, and MyHeritage. Family search, I think this is the coolest one, I have to tell you. If you go to familysearch.com/labs, you'll get this, essentially you'll get this page right here. And it will ask you if you want to try it. And so when you click on try it, you have to sign this form that says, I swear I understand that you could be giving me bad information and this is just an experiment, yada, yada, yada. Okay, which is fine. But they want to qualify all this. So the cool one is expand your search with full text. They took this thing they did with the census and they applied it to some databases, and it came out really neat. It's called the full text experiment. These are the current databases that it has it loaded in there. So it was transcribed all of these databases. Now, the important thing to know here is if you're familiar with indexing of the census, for example, they created an index. You looked at this and said, okay, this is Bob Ski Masson, and you typed it in and said, this is the record, the page it goes to, and the enumeration and all that stuff. None of that happened here. They just fed it to it. There's no indexing whatsoever. It's completely searchable top to bottom, and you can find amazing things in this database.
Does it tell you where it found it? Or does it just say, hey, I
So
found this record?
The comment was, it tells you where you found it. Yeah, absolutely. Here, this is my example. So I looked for William Gessel, my third great grandfather in Ohio, and it found 39 property records for him, which I'm like, he must have been a land baron or something. I don't think he was, but anyway. And notice that these have not been indexed. They're transcribed and searchable. So what it comes up with is, here's the page of the book, the land book that came up. It highlights William's name where it found it in the handwriting. And then it has the transcription here, and it shows the same thing. So anybody can get to this straight away. And I bet you would find some stuff that you didn't know about. It's crazy. So just go to familysearch.com/labs, and I think it's called the full text experiment.
But it just has those 4 databases.
Correct. These 5. And I don't care about Auckland, New Zealand wills and probates, right? And I don't know if, why they chose these. They say they're going to add some later on, but for their experiment, these are the ones they have.
So Boulder County's not there.
So the comment is Boulder County's not there. I don't think so. Well, I don't know. The U.S. land and probate records through 1975, they may be.
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay, so that's Family Search, and there's other experiments you saw that you can play around with. I've looked at most of them, and they pale in comparison to this full text search thing. Ancestry, well, we talked about the 150 million records for the 1950 census that was done in 9 days, and analyzing newspaper articles. So Ancestry now looks through newspapers.com's all of their obits and digitize it. And they do this partially because obviously it helps their customers, but it points them to newspapers.com. It says, oh, you need a subscription to look at this article. So, but if you've looked for obits recently, you'll know that you get a lot of those. Side view, they say this is, and you've probably, if you've looked at your DNA on Ancestry, they split it into parental sides. The only way they could do that, there's nothing in your DNA that tells which side is which. The only way they did that was looking at characteristics of your family that way and characteristics of your family that way. And they call that side view. So they call this Ancestry AI, and almost every page on Ancestry has a button for Ancestry AI. So if you're leafing through, you may have overlooked it because it's usually buried down 2 or 3 scrolls down and over on the right-hand side. But depending on where you are, like if I'm looking at the facts for one of my ancestors, I can click on Ancestry AI and it will give me a life story, for example. Obviously, the DNA origins is also an Ask Ancestry AI button, I think. This is side view. So this is the old one. The new one's much different. But so I had to label these. It said one of your parents is from Scotland and one's from Germany. So I knew it. So I had to label those. And this is all done with some AI stuff. This is called Life Story, again, on Ancestry. So if I click on Life Story, all of this prose, this text here, gets generated based on the facts that it can see on your that you have for that person. Does that make sense?
This is your family?
That's my grandmother, yeah, on my father's side, yeah. Let's look at MyHeritage. MyHeritage does a lot of stuff with images, and they have this thing called Time Machine. It costs like $35. You have to upload like 30 or 40 photos of yourself, and you feed it to it, and then you can put yourself in any setting in history. This was their demo, so I just, because it was free. And this guy, you can see, said, I want to see what it looks like in ancient Egypt. And so that's him in ancient Egypt. That's called Time Machine. The photo enhancer, you may have used that in MyHeritage. You don't even have to have a subscription to MyHeritage to use it. And it does a pretty good job of taking wrinkles out of photos, that kind of thing. The photo data is interesting, and I'll show you that here in a second. And then there's a bunch of other stuff here that MyHeritage calls their AI products. The photo data is interesting. This is my second great uncle, and that's him right there. And I fed this to MyHeritage, and I said, tell me about what date this was taken, because I know about Frank Wells. And it said this photo was taken in 1895, plus or minus 5 years, right? A confidence level of 92%. Well, Frank was born in 1857, so he would have been 38 in this photo. So I think that's pretty close. He looks, 38 plus or minus 5. So that's called the photo dater. This is my mom's graduation photograph, and it's been colorized. I didn't colorize it. It's called Deep Nostalgia, and it created that based on, now I don't know, this is kind of spooky, I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this. Yeah, exactly. So, but that's called Deep Nostalgia, and you can give it any photograph and it will do that for you. Okay, to wrap up, and we can play with some of this if you want in the time we got remaining. AI is definitely here to stay. Some of this stuff is overhyped for genealogy, or AI in general. Some of it's overhyped, but there are also there are societal repercussions with AI, no question about it. I don't know if I talk about it here, but it can also be misused, right? As just like any technology, if humans are involved, some of it can go south. I don't know if y'all used to get these scam emails that says, somebody's just charged your credit card and you're going to have to do something. And if you read it, it reads like a kindergartner wrote it. It's a horrible thing, and you're like, this is stupid. Well, these guys have started using AI to refine those emails, and they are picture perfect now. The grammar's correct, the photographs are correct, so you got to be careful. Anyway, so the things that we kind of see in terms of genealogy, we talked about transcription and so on. Oh, it's not magic, and you still need to be. You still can't just go to ChatGPT and say, find my third great grandfather, right? Because it can't get to information that you couldn't get to yourself. So now someday maybe, they may do that. Yes.
Now, ancestry, does it pull information from the family trees that we put in?
So the question was, in ancestry, does it pull from the family trees? Absolutely. If you've used, what's the DNA, shows you the DNA matches. Gee, you think I'd know this. Through lines, yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's based on looking at other people's trees. So just like anything, when you're looking at other people's trees, you got to take it with a grain of salt.
What does it do? Like in my family tree, I've got this relationship, and a cousin of mine has a different relationship. This is wrong.
So the question was, oh, you're saying one of us is wrong. So, oh yeah, of course. The question is, well, if in the tree, yours is right and your cousin's is wrong. Yeah, you need to go negotiate that with your cousin. Yeah.
I've got that situation.
Al said he's got the same
my second
situation.
cousin Has done a lot, my family, and he got his grandfather spot on. I don't have the information he has.
Yeah.
But I
So
have
Al's
the
saying,
information on my grandfather's birth thing that he doesn't have.
okay, so right, your
we
cousin
don't
has
get
some
one of
and you
these
have
days.
some. AI can be wrong, so you double check things. And if you, as you use these tools like ChatGPT, this is on the side. I kind of equate ChatGPT to a used car salesman that's, you know, a nice, slick used car salesman, and you ask him a question that he doesn't know the answer. What does he do? Generally, he makes it up an answer with enthusiasm. Well, ChatGPT does exactly the same thing. And if you come back and say, "Are you sure?" Quite often it will say, "I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Here's my second real answer," which may or may not be correct. All right. So should we worry about AI? I can't claim credit for this. You won't be replaced by AI, especially a graphics designer or a writer, but you will be replaced by someone that uses AI. I have a consulting company and I do a lot of writing, and I'm using ChatGPT tremendously.
Right, then the person who takes the time to write is gonna have it, you're gonna be able to, it's not gonna sound good.
You'll be replaced by someone that does use it. Yeah. So I've found writing, for example, blogs or papers, it cuts the time in a tenth. Now I pass that on to my customer. I'm not dishonest with them. I said, look, it only took me 20 minutes to write this 1,000-word blog for you. And they're saying, well, you know, this is pretty cool stuff. So
At the university, they have AI say if the person used AI to write their
so the
report.
comment is at the university they have AI that can determine whether the person used AI to write it. And yeah, that's one of the ways. It's not infallible though, because the other person that's doing the writing can just refine the prompt to their AI to change those things that cause the evaluating AI to say it was artificial. And this is, you know, this is going to be an ongoing war. And same with images. I mean, you know, you can look at an image today and say, yeah, I'm pretty sure this is AI. You know, 12 months from now or 18 months from now, you may not be able to tell. Yeah. So the comment was they're passing laws. Yeah. Yeah, but just like all laws, there are people that will break the law. Yeah, they'll break the law in order to make more money or whatever. So I may be wrong about this. I wrote this probably 12 months ago. I'm not sure I have to worry about it, but our kids and their kids, well, we may actually have to worry about it. It is changing really quickly. And so I throw in my little comment here, my editorial. Who knows? Carbon-based life units may become redundant on this planet. Who knows? You know, when an AI can train an AI and an AI can build a mechanical device that's a life form for this planet that's just as well suited as we are, what's to stop them? You know, that's crazy. Here's a bunch of links, and again, this is